Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, welcome back. LPS, Last Prime Speculator, here to bring you another movie review. Today's focus on our movie review will be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I normally am a dedicated Transformers channel, but if you're a comic book fan and a comic book diehard junkie, this movie is the movie for you. This movie was so inspirational, it actually inspired me to expand my channel and add this into a new playlist. So this is something I'm going to be doing. I felt like this movie was talking to me. And again, if you're a comic book fan and a comic book nerd just like myself, this movie is a must-see. So we're going to be reviewing this movie. If you're new to this channel, make sure to consider subscribing and turn on all notifications. That way you can stay updated with all my videos. With all the way, guys, let's get right into this review. Now let's start with Miles Morales. Miles Morales is very dear to me. I looked out a lot for Miles Morales in this. I wanted to see certain elements. The first thing I wanted to see was the Latino aspect, and they nailed it perfectly. As you know, Miles Morales is half African American and half Latino as well. I felt that was very important that I make sure he had that Spanish speaking element because he could speak both English and both Spanish. If they didn't nail that right away, this wouldn't have been a no-go for me. But right away they established that Spanish element with his mother and as well, and this whole dynamic with his family. And I thought that was absolutely well done, and also a great way of character development as well. Something I was looking out for, and I think Sony nailed that part tremendously well. The great thing about Miles in this is Miles, just like in the comics, is an average, ordinary kid. He's very easy to gravitate to. You can relate to this character. In this movie, he actually gets accepted to this new school academy that is very prestigious in Brooklyn, New York, apparently. That's where he's from. One of the coolest parts, though, is when he's walking to school and everything, and he's very into graffiti, he's very into arts and everything, and he gets to connect with all his friends. You see him speaking Spanish to all his Spanish friends, going and speaking English to all his other friends, and they are all saying, Miles, we miss you, we miss you. What happened? He's like, I'm still around and everything, but it's very, very relatable to be put in a situation you're uncomfortable with, and his father is pushing him to do this. They say that, you pass this test, you accept this test, you belong in this school, and this is an excellent opportunity. And I think that's very relatable is that we've all been there. Do we ever want to take that extra step to push ourselves in situations that we're uncomfortable with just because others want us to do what's better for us? Now, being a child at that time, you don't know what's right until, you grow up and everything. And I thought that was an excellent and relatable scenario for the character as well. Now, the cool thing also about Miles is his connection with his father and his uncle. We'll start with his uncle as well. He looks up to his uncle. His uncle is a very cool dude, very mellow, very chill, into the same stuff as Miles is. He's very into music. He's into arts and graffiti. And he also has got the other side of the law. He's got a little bit of a criminal side to him as well, which again is very intriguing as well when you're younger, because everybody wants to have that bad feel, and being a little bit of a excuse my French, a badass at times. You look up to people like that. Now his dad, on the other hand, is a police force, and it's really cool because it's the other side of the law. So Miles is in this predicament, is this uncle he looks up to, or his father, who he loves very much, that is very, very straight, very narrow-minded, and I think that's an excellent way, and it's very comic book accurate to the comics. I'm not going to leave anything there. This is a spoiler-free review, obviously, but make sure to keep your eye open for his uncle, because there's a moment there where Miles does have to choose between good and evil. Now, something I think that was also done very well is when Miles got bit by the spider. It was called case number 42. They had a lot of Easter eggs and scenarios for the number 42, and that was actually the actual case that bit Miles in the comics, and they made sure to acknowledge that in this movie as well, and that's something I was really looking forward to. I think that was also, you'll see a bunch of Easter eggs with the case number 42, and I think that was done excellently well. Me, myself, I've always wondered if the 42 was also a callback to the legendary and greatest baseball player of all time, Jackie Robinson. If that was also where Stan Lee got the creativity of the number 42. I've never been able to find it, but that's also something I've always thought that was some reference to the great Jackie Robinson as well, and that would make a lot of sense and also be really, really cool. So if you know anything about that, make sure to leave in the comments below, because that's something I love to learn about myself. And after he gets bit by the spider of case number 42, you're expecting this big epic moment, and it's not. All he does is just slap his hand and everything, and that's when he actually gets his effect and everything. You get to see him gain his Spider-Man powers. Now his powers are the ability to, I call it the chameleon effect. He can kind of go in this camo mode, where he can kind of become an invisible mode. But that was one thing I was looking for too, is were they going to nail his chameleon look of Spider-Man, which he can take forms and kind of disappear in a way. I was very, very, very connected to Miles in this, and I thought Miles Morales was nailed incredibly well and is very, very well done. And again, it has a special place in my heart, and that's something that made me so happy about this movie. Actually almost brought a tear to my eye watching how well you could connect to this particular character. Now let's talk about the visual effects. The visual effects in this movie are incredible. The colors, the stunning digital quality, the comic book look, it's incredible. There's so much comic book references that you feel like you're in a real live comic book. And I know you've heard that millions of times. No, this movie and its artwork, it feels like you're in a real comic book. Like literally you're sitting right there in a comic book. It's incredible. The colors jump right in your face. The visual effects, it's absolutely stunning and absolutely incredible. And in my opinion, this is almost a game changer. I feel a lot of movies, being that the entertainment industry is a copycat league, this is actually going to be a future that movies are going to use an example and take these ideas from Into the Spider-Verse, because it was stunning. The little details with the comic books too, like, you know, the part where they're thinking or they're talking, they put the little quotation right next to them. You know, there's this one scene where Miles is running down the street and everything, and he just got bit by the spider, and I don't remember exactly what words you say, but you know, thinking fast, and it puts right there what's thinking in his head, in that yellow font and the blank font. Really, really cool. The only slight problem, and this is probably the only problem I will have in the movie, is that there were times where I was watching certain scenes and it was kind of blurry in the background. And it almost made you feel like that it was made for 3D at times. I myself saw the movie in a regular setting in the movie called IMAX, so it's more better for reclining, but it's the same. It's more for, you know, the Dolby effects of the sound thing. But if you see it in 3D, let me know. But that was the only real, like, sort of negative effect I had in the movie, was there were times in the background it was kind of blurry, and then you got the idea or image, was this built for 3D only? Just make sure to let me know, leave it in the comments. But otherwise, the effects are absolutely stunning, and you're going to be blown out of your mind. Now, the main thing that all these spider characters need to do is stop the Collider. And the Collider is a device that Kingpin wants to activate that will open all the realms and the universes of all the Spider-Man characters. And this is actually where all these characters actually come about and come from, is this Collider. Now, what happens though is that Kingpin's goal is actually really cool. Kingpin's goal is to bring back his family, his love Vanessa, which we all know from Daredevil as well. If you've seen it on Netflix, if you haven't, check it out, it's phenomenal. And his son. And he wants to go back in these universes to grab one of these Vanessas to basically bring back his love and his family. So his intentions in this aren't necessarily bad. He's still a villain though, of course, but that's his goal, is to use this device of this Collider to go back in universes to basically bring one of these Vanessas back into his time to make himself complete again. This whole realm's being open. These are where all these Spider-Mens come in and are all stuck in the current time zone of Miles Morales' time, and that's where this whole goal is. And the only way to stop it and to, one, stop the device of the Collider and also open to let these Spider-Mens go back in their current universe, is based on this USB drive. And I'm going to leave it like that because it's spoiler-free, and it's a very important part, a very confusing part, and a wow factor as well. And also a very sad part. Just keep your eye open on it. Now let's talk about the Spider game. Let's start with Peter B. Parker. Peter B. Parker is hilarious. He is the fat, out of shape Spider-Man, almost in his past his time, loves greasy food. They don't show it, but I'm pretty sure he's a beer drinker as well. He's got a heavy gut, and he's almost a washed-up Spider-Man. And they explain every single character's origins from a comic book as well. So when you get to meet each individual Spider-Man, it opens up a comic book and they introduce herself. But he is actually the one that really helps Miles the most in this and becomes the closest to Miles. And it's crazy because, you know, you got Miles, who's this hungry kid, and you got this washed-up teacher. It's a really great combination. And the best part is, this Spider-Man wears sweatpants because he can't fit into his normal spider gear, and it's absolutely hilarious. Spider-Gwen is awesome. She is actually played by Haley Steinfeld, and she's casted perfectly in this. Now, we're a Transformers usually dedicated channel. We love Haley Steinfeld. We got Bumblebee coming out very soon, and I was very interested to see how she was going to do in this movie, and she nailed this character. Gwen is awesome. I love her attitude in this. I love her badassness, and I love the fact she's very wise in a way as well, and caring as well. In the comics, she wasn't as popular, in my opinion. I didn't really care about her. She had a really epic death back in the day and through the comic books, but there hasn't been too much Gwen wow factor, as I call it. In this, I would love for Gwen to have her own story as well and get her own movie. She was so perfectly cast and so well done in this movie. And Gwen and Miles' relationship work together and come together. It's very, very interesting as well. And I hope that they do a future movie with just focusing on them two. Maybe a relationship down the road as well. Now, Penny Parker is great as well. Like they said, they explain all their origins through flipping up the comic books and everything. She brought a different type of energy. I didn't know too much about her. I didn't know really anything about Penny Parker. But when I watched this movie, she's awesome. She does something very important. She's very good at technology. I loved her origins, and I loved her attitude and her chipperness as well. Now, Spider-Man Noir, played by Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage nailed this voice acting of this character. I didn't know too much about him as well. I kind of knew it was based off the 1939s. He fought Nazis. I remember that as well. In this one, they do it so well. They add that comedy element to it as well, where it's all black and white, which that's exactly what the digital showings were back in that day, was black and white. And the coolest part is that he's very dry and very black and white in the way he thinks and looks. Like, there's this part where he finds this cube and he only can see black and white, and he's like, I don't understand this cube. And obviously the cube has got yellow, blue, white, all that good stuff on it, and all he can see is black and white. So then you realize, wow, that Spider-Noir is actually colorblind. And Nicolas Cage played this character so well. I would love to see him in his own movie as well. He was hilarious. Now, Spider-Ham. What more can you say about Spider-Ham, right? Spider-Pig, there's nothing more. Spider-Ham is hilarious, and he is almost the final piece of this odd spider team coming together under one. And the one scene where he's like, dude, pigs talk in this universe, because I don't want to freak him out. The whole theater started laughing, and then it adds a little bit of scene. The trailers don't really spoil it as much as you think they would. He brings that final touch and that hilarious element, and it almost makes you scratch. You don't think it's going to work. It works. Trust me, it totally worked. Now, Miles Morales was part of this team and everything. He's the lost Spider-Man in this. He's the one that does not know his abilities, know his powers. Again, when they show all their comic book origins, Miles is the only one that does not have a story. Now, they are a team. They care about each other, and you learn about that. Look, I'm getting the goosebumps right now even talking about it. Miles is the lost Spider-Man. He does not know his power. He has not become in one with his spider abilities. He's got his sensing ability. He can do all that stuff. But his powers in general, they do not want him to get hurt. And there's an important scene in here where actually they don't want Miles to continue. They're worried he's going to die. And they have to work together. And being that they love Miles and he is part of their family now, they want to keep him back because they're worried about what could happen to Miles when they try to take down Kingpin and stop this device called the Collider. And Miles is so relatable to this because if you're really in a scenario with all these superheroes in it, and you second guess yourself, you doubt yourself, you're with these icons that have done great things in their universes, and then there's you're just a kid, just a normal person with these abilities that you don't know what to do. You can relate a lot to Miles, and there's a touching scene, and actually, again, drew a tear in my eye when they all leave to go do their thing, and they leave Miles behind. Without getting too deep into it, it's very, very important, but it's extremely relatable, and it makes you feel like, what if you are somebody that is just an average kid, average person along with these superheroes? You would doubt yourself too, and I think the story development in that scene is so beautiful. Now, the villains in this. Kingpin is done incredibly perfect. Now, again, this is a comic book movie. He's big, he's blotchy, he's huge, he's enormous, his head's in the bottom, he almost looks like a penguin in a way. And it was done perfect. That's exactly what it was done in the comics. There's two other main villains as well, and a couple of cameos as well in this movie, without getting too much into the spoiler details. One of them is a wow factor. You're going to see this, and if you read the comics, I think you know what you're talking about with one of the characters in this, in the Miles origins and everything. You'll know what's going to happen. I don't want to give it to you because my wife was actually, wow, that really happened. I was like, yeah, sweetheart, that was based off the comics. Now, the biggest wow factor is when they meet one of the villains as well. I don't want to get too in depth, but keep your eye out for one of the Behold Spider-Man villains as well. I'll give you a clue. It's a scientist, and you know there's a couple of scientists as well in the Spider-Man universe, being Peter Parker himself is a genius himself. But keep your eye open because it was nailed so perfectly, and I didn't see this coming, and it was done incredibly well, and I really hope that they touch on this villain down the road. But the villains were done well, and like the one like I'm talking about at the very end was probably my favorite villain. I'll just leave it at that. Now, finally, the Stan Lee cameo. The Stan Lee cameo in this movie was done so well. When he came on, you could hear the you could hear it and feel the energy in my theater totally changed. Look, I'm getting goosebumps, and that's exactly how I felt. Now, Stan Lee's cameo is probably the best cameo that I've seen in all these movies, and I don't even think it's because of the recent passing of the great Stan Lee. It was just so Stan Lee in this. I don't want to spoil it, but the cameo is Stan Lee at his finest. A salesman, a comic guy, and the connection he has with Miles is amazing. And the message that he sends to Miles in this is also very, very inspiring as well. It's not your typical quick second. It's a good minute cameo, and you're going to enjoy the connection that Miles has with it, especially the scene that happens right before you see the Stan Lee cameo. It's a very, very sad moment, and it was so Stan Lee, and it was awesome to see. Like I said, this is probably his best cameo I've seen in all of his movies, and I really hope they continue with these Stan Lee cameos, maybe doing like something on a writing on the wall, very similar to what Deadpool did. They had a little art graffiti of him, which would be perfect for this down the road, being that Miles is into graffiti and artwork and stuff. It's so well done, and it was such an honor to see the great Stan Lee, and I'm so privileged that these movies are going to continue, and I hope his legacy continues as well. Rest in peace, Stan Lee. Now, how do I judge these movies, you probably would ask, being that I'm normally a Transformers channel? Well, in this channel, we judge with an Energon and a Dark Energon. Here, let me explain. An Energon is very similar to this channel, what would a tomato would be, a certified tomato. When you get an Energon, you think of it as a tomato. When you get a Dark Energon, you think it as a rotten tomato. That's how I grade all my reviews and everything, is Energon and Dark Energon. Now, you guys already know, this movie is no doubt a Energon, an Energon flat out. It's got a 99% Rotten Tomatoes. That is not a flawed score. It is an honest score. This movie itself inspired me to add a playlist and to do a review and to step out of my boundaries just because this spoke to me. This is a comic book fan's dream. This is what we've been waiting for. You know, you've seen all those commercials and trailers, you know, the most comic book accurate movie all the time. No, this is a real live comic book coming to life. I'm a huge comic book junkie, and I've been waiting for a movie like this my whole life. Guys, please go see this movie. This movie is a masterpiece and deserves all the Energon and all the certified tomatoes it could possibly get. I'm telling you, it's a great family film. You can go see it by yourself. You'll enjoy it, and just go witness a game changer of the art and digital art screening that you'll be witnessing in this movie. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that review. Make sure, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turn on all notifications. This is something I'm going to be doing and adding a new playlist. If not, you're still kind of tempted, you want to see, don't worry, my next review will be the Bumblebee movie, so maybe give me a second chance to come check me out if not. To my subscribers, again, I love you so much. This is LPS here to bring you another movie review. Peace.